one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will start with the roll call. If everyone could introduce themselves, starting from my right. Gary, you're up.
It's me. Carrie Sindoni, Assistant Superintendent.
Jane Samard, Business Administrator.
Michael Flynn, Superintendent.
Brenda Willis, School Board.
Michael Thiel, School Board Chair.
Jen Thoreau, School Board Vice Chair.
Jenna Paradise, School Board Secretary.
Jamie Carew, School Board.
Karen Rand, School Board.
And David Clapp, School Board.
All right, thank you, everybody. Before we get started tonight, thank you to everyone throughout the district for taking care of our kids on this first day back to school today. I know I didn't want to see summer to end, and I am sure our educators, staff, and students probably didn't want to either, but I hope everybody was able to take the summer to recharge, and today is a fresh start to a new year, so good luck to our students and staff alike. I'd also like to welcome Carrie Sindoni to the district. I wasn't at the last meeting, which would have been her first, so Carrie, welcome, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Our first order of business will be the consent agenda. For tonight, we have the public meeting minutes of August 11th, 2026, the manifests in the amount of $2,968,882.79, of which $1,305,516.25 is general payroll, and $1,663,366.54 is general expense. Approval of the following professional staff nominations: Cameron Dubray, one-year science teacher, Gilbert H. Hood Middle School; Angelina Ficera, elementary teacher, Ernest P. Barca Elementary School; and Christine Thomas, school nurse, Gilbert H. Hood Middle School. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
First by Jenna.
Second.
Second by Jamie. Any further discussion of any of these items? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. No presentations tonight, so we'll move on to delegations and individuals. At this time, residents of Derry, parents of currently enrolled Derry students, and employees of the district may address the school board on matters that pertain only to school and district business for a period of time not to exceed 3 minutes per person. As a reminder, the board welcomes your input. However, questions are not entertained during the comment period. If you would like to speak, please come up to the microphone at this time and state your name and address for the record.
Tracy Zisk, 5 Silver Street. First off, I just wanted to start off with, I know I've been in contact with Mike and with Jeremy. If you haven't been over to see South Range School yet, which I can't imagine any school board member has not, it was such a big project, it's unbelievable. I mean, I lived it. None of you live in the neighborhood. Karen, you do a few streets up, but it's directly across the street from my house. 7 days a week, they were there. These guys were out there at 6 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. I mean, they killed it. And when I tell you that they were so respectful to the children in the neighborhood, they drove slow. They did touch a truck, an impromptu one by the side of my house. They let the kids come up. When the kids were pulling the horn, they would honk their horns. It was the cutest thing ever. They really engaged. The kids did not have their playground, but they made the most of it for them. It really was unbelievable. And for someone as a resident, they were there at 6 in the morning, pounding, starting, and it was not loud. It wasn't out of control. I was leaving for work. I work 7 days a week in the summer, and one of the guys pulled over at 5:45 in the morning. It was Saturday, and he's like, "It's going to be loud today." And I said, "That's okay. It's what we voted for. You know, we asked for this. We know it. We're not here to complain about it. You guys have been out of control, amazing to all of us. Walk in the parking lot, making sure there were no nails in the street. All that can happen in construction zones. They went up and beyond. But a big shout out to them, because if you didn't know or you didn't drive by, right after 4th of July, it was over 100 degrees for like 4 days. Those guys were up on the roof in asbestos suits for hours at a time. And what I witnessed and what I saw, they rallied together. There was crews coming in with Gatorades, water. They didn't stop working. They didn't say it's too hot. They were out there. And I work outside, and it was 100 degrees, and I was hot. I was not in an asbestos suit for 10 hours. Those guys, unbelievable. But how kind and considerate they were to all of us definitely just needed its praises. But the reason why I'm here is I do have a question about the SAU. Wondering when it will be listed. I know that's something we discussed and we voted on in March. My concern is it's not a typical house, so it will sit on the market longer. I know I had addressed this at a meeting. I had spoken and asked to consider putting it on the market while it was still in use, like a regular house is. Residents live in their homes as is for sale. But I'm looking to know when that will go on the market. And if you ever found out what it's going to be sold under, being that it's in the West Runningbrook district, because that's mixed zoning, where I remember I'd asked if you could confirm if it was going to be just commercial or mixed zone. I believe it needed to be grandfathered in because of how that district was put into place. And my third question is, has
Tracy,
the economic
your
development...
time is up, so
Okay.
if someone wanted to make a motion to grant Tracy additional time.
So moved.
Just
All right, we have,
quick...
I got to
Okay.
do the procedure. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Go ahead.
Thank you. And my last was, I was just wondering, has the economic director been pulled into the loop on this yet? Has she started networking to see if that building is something a local business or other businesses in her network would be considering? Like I said, it is mixed zone usage, so would like to know what the game plan is for the building. That's it. Thank you.
So we don't entertain questions during the comment period, but Mike is going to have an update on the SAU later in the meeting.
It's in my superintendent's update.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, Brian Churchill, 6 Rollins Street. First off, happy birthday, Jenna.
Thank you.
I wish I was your age, but I wish we could swap.
25.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I would like to make a recommendation, if I could. One of the things with spending on both town side and school side are health insurance costs. And if anyone paid attention to the town council, I think it was Councilor Webb had made a recommendation when they were doing their goal setting to study or have an outside group take a look at health insurance, because the drivers, they're like 20%, I think, for the town side. I don't know what it was for the school side, but it's getting very expensive. So Councilor Webb made it a goal to check into what they could do on the healthcare side of things. And I think it would be beneficial to the town as a whole if the school could actually participate with the town and see if they can get an outside group to look at what they can do to contain some of those costs. So that's just a recommendation. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board, neighbors. I'm Matthew Glavin at 31 Berry Road in Derry, New Hampshire. I'm here tonight to support keeping the surplus you guys have in your budget from the year, keeping that in a rainy day fund. We do not have to look far for an example of this. Bedford last year got hit with an unexpected $1 million increase in their retirement costs after their March election, after the budget had passed. And that kind of surprise that nobody wants in a school budget unless it comes with cake. Since they don't have much flexibility, they had to make some tough mid-year cuts to make adjustments. This is exactly what I hope Derry can avoid. You guys have done an exceptional job at budgeting, and to be, that close to the margins is pretty good. We haven't had any seem to have reined in the costs a little bit as far as the building goes and taken the necessary steps, and the rainy day fund will be something that is useful, especially when boilers break or snow blowers go and towns need to make decisions on to buy these things, and we don't have to rely on the taxpayers to do that. I also get why returning the surplus sounds appealing. Everyone likes getting money back, but the savings back for each household would likely be small. And if a big expense comes up later, taxpayers could end up paying a lot more. To me, a rainy day fund is not money taken from the taxpayers, it is money saved for taxpayers, so we are better prepared when the next problem shows up. So I would ask to take the long view and keep this approximately $1 million in reserve to help keep Derry's public schools stable and the taxpayers' bills stable as well. Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Chrissy Trow. I live at 15 Lawrence Street here in Derry, and I'm a homeowner and a taxpayer. I came tonight because I've been listening to the discussion about the approximate surplus and what should happen with that money. I understand why returning the money to the taxpayers sounds appealing. Property taxes are a real concern for many of us, but I also think we need to look beyond the immediate savings and consider what could happen down the road. If the amount returned to an individual homeowner is relatively small, I believe we should consider whether keeping these funds available for unexpected school expenses could ultimately save taxpayers more in the long run. We all know what happens in our homes. A heating or air conditioning system can fail, a plumbing problem can happen without warning, a roof can suddenly need work, and our school buildings face some of these unexpected expenses, only on a much larger scale. With changes in the state funding in Concord also affecting our schools, I think it's very important that Derry has some financial protection when an unexpected expense comes up. I would rather have the funds be available than find ourselves facing an emergency later, having to raise additional funds to cover it. For that reason, I support keeping the surplus available in our appropriate fund, if legally permitted, for unexpected expenses and future needs. To me, that is responsible planning and the way of protecting the taxpayers in the long run. This is one number I would really like the board to clarify tonight. What would returning the approximate surplus actually save the average taxpayer? Derry homeowner. I think taxpayers deserve to know what number so we can compare the immediate savings with the value of having money available when our schools unexpectedly need it. And thank you.
Thank you.
Busy night for public comment, huh? Hi, my name is David Proventure. I live at 26 Milton Moore Road. I've lived in Derry almost my entire life. I was going to come up here and say basically the same thing Matt and Chrissy just did, but that seems like a waste of time. Of course, you should keep a rainy day fund. Instead, I'd like to take a minute to remember a fallen American hero. Dolly Parton passed away at the age of 80 today. A lot of people might be asking, what does that have to do with the school board? A lot of people know her, as a musician with a unique sense of style. She also used her fortune that she got from her music to start a nonprofit organization called the Imagination Library that was dedicated to teaching children to read and giving them a lifelong love of reading. And I just want, everyone to think, how can I be more like Dolly?
David. Any more takers?
No, there's no register.
It's fine. Just come up and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Françoise Ulrich, Francoise, 37 Kristen Drive. Good to go?
Go ahead.
Okay, good evening. My name is Françoise. I have 3 children that attend Derry schools. I live on Kristen Drive, a 1-mile loop in East Derry. I'm here tonight to ask the school board to review my daughter's bus stop assignment and a process by which bus stops are assigned. My daughter is 10 years old and attends intermediate school. She's currently being asked to walk approximately half a mile to her bus stop along a road with no sidewalks and no street lighting. There are 4 children who live along Kristen Drive who are assigned to the same stop. Because of the distance and safety concerns, the adults are routinely driving their children to the stop sign at the intersection in the morning. This results in multiple vehicles and children congregating at the intersection, creating additional congestion and an unsafe situation. I've tried to address this through the appropriate channels, but I've received conflicting answers about who is actually responsible. The transportation director has told me that the bus company is responsible for assigning the stop. The bus company, however, has told me that the transportation officer at the school is responsible. I'm asking the board to clarify who has authority and responsibility for bus stop placement, to review this particular stop for safety, and to consider whether a more appropriate stop can be established for these children. This is not simply an issue of convenience. We have 4 intermediate school children being asked to travel along a road without sidewalks or lighting, and the current arrangement is resulting in adults having to drive them to an already cluttered intersection. I would appreciate the board's help in determining who is responsible for resolving this and ensuring that this safety concern is properly reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a review process for bus stops, and it does go through the transportation coordinator. So if you're not getting the answers that you need, we can have the superintendent's office make sure that you're being properly taken care of.
I wrote an email outlining my concern to Mr. Clifton, I think.
Yep, yeah,
and
he's the
Mr. Clifton is the one who told me that I had the concern. So that's it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, not seeing anyone else come to the microphone, so we'll move on with the meeting. The public comment period will remain open until 7:02 p.m. So if you wish to speak prior to that time, please approach the microphone and I'll recognize you at the next break in the agenda. It's first day of school, so no student members with us quite yet tonight, so we'll move on to deliberations. We have 3 items to consider for tonight. Our first discussion is going to be school board goals. So back on June 23rd, the board met with Mike for a goal-setting workshop. Members of the board were asked to submit ideas for goals to Mike and I for consideration in advance of the workshop, and everyone was also encouraged to continue to provide input right up until tonight's discussion. So we went through the discussion notes and the feedback from that workshop, and we put together some themes for potential goals to consider tonight. Before we get into the goals themselves, I wanted to talk a little bit about the board, the superintendent, how we work together. We're a board of directors, and Mike is our CEO. So he's the one employee that we hire, and he's responsible to us for the day-to-day operations of the organization. So this goal-setting process is for the board, but it's also really Mike and his team that is going to take our goals and do the day-to-day work to implement them. So, we provide oversight, and we ensure those goals are being met and the resources are being responsibly stewarded. So as we go through this process to set goals, we're obviously going to rely on Mike and his team as professionals in their field to provide us with advice and some realism onto what is possible. So with that, I'll go through what we have, and of course, everyone is encouraged to provide input. So the first goal we put down addresses something we know we have ahead of this year, and that's the contract with AFSCME and our educational assistants. Their current agreement is up at the end of the year, and we will need to begin negotiations on a new agreement to bring to voters next March. So I have the following language for us to consider. The school board, with the superintendent and the administration's negotiating team, will negotiate a collective bargaining agreement with AFSCME, the union representing educational assistants, and bring that agreement for voter approval at the 2027 school district annual meeting. This one should be a no-brainer. Did anyone have any comments on this?
No comments. I don't have a comment.
I thought you were going to say something. I just put it on because I figured at some point I'll talk about it.
But I
don't
would
have any comments on that. That seems like a,
I would accept the motion to adopt this goal as presented.
So moved.
First by Jen, second by Jenna. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, the second goal we talked about was something we've been addressing and will need to continue to address, and that's our policy manual. So our policy committee meets monthly to review new and revised policies to come before the full board. It was expressed in the workshop that we should set a specific goal around policy to keep us on track throughout the year. So I have the following language for us to consider. The school board with the superintendent will aim to review and bring at least 3 new or revised policies to the board for review each month. So I put 3 policies in here as a placeholder. I think if this is a goal we want to implement, there could be a discussion around what we think is reasonable, whether we'd want to be more or less aggressive. So I'd open it up to comments on this one.
I think that, how many, do you even know off the top of your head how many policies we have and how many are in need of review? Because I feel like 3 a month is a small amount, and most of the policies appear to be small in nature, not very large. I feel like we could probably get through at least 2 per meeting, meaning at least 4 per month, if not more. Do you have any feedback, Mike, as far as what we have as an undertaking?
Yes. So we have a lot that we're trying to reel back in and get compliant with what we need to. I think we did a pretty good job last year, nearly 36, 37, which is around that 4 a month target. So 4 is fine with me, Brenda. I don't know if you have an opinion on, 4 would be the floor, right?
Yeah.
But some of them might be 5 or 6, depending on what specifically comes through NHSBA and legislation that we need to do.
And I think part of the process of changing and updating policy involves legal sometimes, and also new laws that come up. So while we have these policies to review, we might have to do this instead because there's new laws that require, we're going to look at a policy tonight that has to be dealt with because of a law. So I think 3 is a good goal, but if we can do more, we will. We talked about this at our meeting the other day as well.
Yeah, because another thing that happens, right, we have to update JICK tonight, and then there's also 1, 2, I'm looking down there. I think there's at least 3 that are 5. I lied.
That are
5.
connected to the same
Oh, connected,
policy.
yeah.
3.
Yeah, there's 3 connected. So that means within the next month, we're going to have to bring 3 additional on top of 1. So again, 3's fine, 4's easy. We anticipated at a committee.
The floor, at least. So, if you wanted to shoot for 4, and
4's fine.
it's a goal.
Yep, 4's fine.
We were able to.
And we have a committee goal of 5 per meeting trying to review. So that whether it moves forward or not or has to go back, 4 should be fine.
Yeah. All right, so let's say we use the language of the school board with the superintendent will aim to review and bring at least 4 new or revised policies for the board to review each month. So I would accept a motion to accept this goal as revised.
So moved.
First by Jenna, second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So the third goal gets into finance. So there was a desire from the group to tighten up the fiscal advisory process and set a target for the budget. So just about the entire fiscal advisory committee has turned over in the last few years. We have a lot of new members. We've had a lot of new members on the board itself, and we have a still new superintendent adapting to the district. So it's a good time to set a path forward for what we want this process to be and what is expected of everyone involved. So I had the following language for us to consider, and I did leave the target increase undefined for now. I think that's something we should talk about. That's something that Mike and Jane should have input into. And I know you guys are already gearing up for the budget season, so I'm sure you have thoughts. So the language I have is the school board with the superintendent and finance department will continue to refine the fiscal advisory committee process and to define the role of the committee members, and will aim to produce an FY28 budget at no more than an X increase. So I'll open this up to discussion, and Mike, Jane, if you have thoughts on what would be a reasonable target for the budget at this point.
So that's under the superintendent's update as well. Obviously, there's a couple bills that are in place in regards to how we're going to have to prepare them. So I would make a recommendation to leave it as X, and then once we get into September, October, you can certainly revisit it and put a number in the ground. I don't feel comfortable putting any type of number in place.
I think that absolutely makes sense.
So the only thing I would say is I agree with you. It's hard to put a number on it today, but if things are favorable with these bills as we find out with the calculations come up with, I'd love to be around 3%, 3.5% as a target point, if possible. Obviously today it's a little early to come to that conclusion, but that's what I would like to see. We can talk more about it, obviously. Clearly, that hinges on HB 1300, and we'll see how that shakes out when we have some clarifying information on what the calculation looks like for the tax cap. So that's kind of my feedback, and I think I gave that feedback at our meeting back in last month, whatever it was. So that's all. That's what I thought. My thoughts as we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, we're still a couple of months away from really getting the fiscal advisory process going. So yeah, I mean, I think we definitely have some time where you're going to want to fine tune, what a real target looks like.
Michael, the only thing I would say with that is once Jane's knee deep in these budgets, she needs the number.
Yeah.
Like, we can't wait till like end of October because she's probably
absolutely
halfway through the process. So I'd say early September, mid-September, unless these guys say otherwise, we should really narrow that number down.
Yeah, I mean, when the meeting comes, when you guys are ready to discuss this, we'll obviously want to bring it up as soon as possible.
Sure.
And Michael, did you say that in the language somewhere about what the expectations are for fiscal advisory committee?
Yeah, we would, that was the language was we would continue to refine the fiscal advisory committee process and to define the role of the committee members.
Okay, good. I think it's really important because I know for myself, and I can't speak for Jen, but for that short stint that we were doing fiscal advisory, I would almost like it to read more like a job application on Indeed where you have a breakdown of what's expected from you, because walking into it and being put on there, it's still so vague and people sitting around going, okay, so what do you want from me? Especially because the process was odd. And I know, Mike, when you walked into it, you were like, all right, we're going to revamp things and it's going to be very different. So it would be nice to have it laid out like a job application of what people are walking in to volunteer for, because obviously it's not a paid position, so you want to know the hours that are expected, like you said, setting out the meetings, like very, very straightforward, so people know I go in, I get out, I do this job.
Yeah, Jane and I sat, I'm losing track of days. I think yesterday. Yesterday.
Okay.
And I'll call it like, what this year we plan on doing basically an orientation night, kind of what you explained, like what to expect, how to read, what the documents are, and then we'll do like a pre-meeting prior to the first meeting. So we have the same goals in place, specifically myself, because last year I kept looking around being like, what do we do here? So we're going to establish some of our goals with an orientation night, and then before we kick off, get a couple more in-depth trainings on how to read Jane's documents, what to look for, and what the purpose of each meeting should be.
Is there still going to be a chair per se? Because I know that there was one person who was the dedicated, were they considered a chair? I don't remember the gentleman's name.
I think you're talking about formerly there was Bruce Kling, who has since moved out of town, who I think just made himself chair. I don't know.
It was an unofficial position.
Exactly.
Okay,
I think he just sort of spearheaded things, and he kind of became like an impromptu leader of the group. So, but I do think that speaks to some of the turnover that's happened, and there's been some moving parts regarding fiscal advisory committee members turning over, us getting Mike on as superintendent, and so it speaks to the need to clarify this process.
I think
there was a core group on that committee for a long time that kind of had a way of doing things, and almost the entire committee has turned over in the last few years. So
and it turned over again. We're going to have new members.
So it's a good time to redefine and exactly what it's meant to be.
Okay, thank you.
I can appreciate all the feedback on this, and I agree 100%. The only thing I would say is, after every meeting, we're pretty specific on what the expectations are for the next meeting. It's literally saying, hey, we're going to review X, Y, and Z. Be prepared to discuss X, Y, and Z. So I appreciate what you're saying, and I get that, but there's some little personal responsibility that comes along with this position as well. That kind of an expectation that as you get into this role and go to the meetings, you got to kind of step it up and do the work. But I appreciate what you guys are saying, though. I don't disagree as well.
So, Jen, I just wanted to say that the Fiscal Advisory Committee chooses their own person.
Okay.
And they communicate with each other and write the letter for the annual report. And we did used to have a training, or I don't know what you want to call it, training with Jane prior to the past couple of years. So I do think that it's beneficial to people who have never even looked at our school budget before and don't understand what's needed and why we spend this much money on X, right? So I do think, I'm kind of sad that it went away, but I'm glad that it's coming back, and I'm sorry that you were part of the people who didn't have all that training.
Thank you.
All right, so we are good with this goal as written?
Yes.
So, well,
Do you want to revisit it when there's a number there?
Yeah, or take it out for now.
yeah, we can take it out for now and revisit it later when we have a number.
Works for me.
Or we can just leave out the part about the increase, and obviously we can set a goal where we want to refine the fiscal advisory committee process and define the role of the committee members and just leave the budget target off for now.
Even an X, because it doesn't really say, it's not really a goal, it's an X.
Yeah. Well, let's say we could set a goal right now. The school board with the superintendent and finance department will continue to refine the fiscal advisory committee process and to define the role of the committee members, period. And then when we're ready to discuss a budget target, we can,
It's going to be a target anyways. So you guys are going to tell us
that doesn't
the
need to
number.
be a goal at that point. That's going to be, it's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
So.
That's fine. All right.
So I would take a motion to accept the goal as revised.
So moved.
All right, we have first by Jen, second by Jamie. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So we have a fourth goal that also touches on finance. There was quite a bit of discussion in our workshop regarding trust funds. So there was a facilities trust established a few years ago, and we've moved toward annual replenishment of that fund to address long-term capital improvements. But historically, trust funds haven't been a big part of the district's financial picture. So given economic uncertainty facing school districts right now, it's as good a time as any to rethink that. So I have the following language. The school board, with the superintendent and finance department, will explore and establish trust funds as part of the district's long-term financial management strategy to responsibly fund future capital improvements, mitigate the financial impact of large unforeseen expenditures, and promote greater stability and predictability for taxpayers. Open this one up for discussion.
I have one question. Do we want to each year, since this is a goal for the year, do we want to determine this year how many trust funds or what the goal might be within our goals?
Yep, I mean, I left this deliberately kind of open, we will explore and establish trust funds. And, we can kind of, go from there as we start to look into it through the year.
Yeah, I read this as this is your target, and then as we begin the discussions, you'll then narrow it down on how many this year or next year or the projection.
Yeah, and I think this is a good opportunity for Mike to present what he feels the needs are and what is reasonable for us to move forward with. So I think this is something that will come from Mike, and we'll say yay or nay kind of
So
thing.
keep it vague now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, let him do his analysis. We just got a capital improvement CIP coming up, and so there's lots of information to digest and figure out where that opportunities are.
Yeah, it's a broad goal for the year, and then, you fine tune what it looks like throughout the course of the year.
Okay.
So any more discussion on this one? All right, so I would accept a motion to adopt this goal as presented.
So moved.
First by Jen,
Second.
second by Jenna. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries 7-0. So the fifth goal gets into some of the state legislation that we've already talked a little bit about tonight. So there are issues we're going to have to face in the coming year, whether we like it or not, so we're going to have to be prepared. We have HB 1300 that's become law, and that requires a school tax cap vote to be on the November ballot in every town. And we have HB 1331 that opens the door for a charter amendment vote that would reorganize the school district as a town department. So this is all still incredibly murky, particularly around the tax cap. I know, Mike, you've been consulting with legal counsel, but once we can have all of this laid out for us, we'll need to settle on a position as a board and how we approach these issues so Mike and his team can work on a communications plan for the district. So November is going to come up fast. So this is the language I have for us to consider for now. The school board, with the superintendent, will develop a position and communications plan to approach a possible tax cap vote in November 2026 as a result of HB 1300, and a possible vote to consolidate the district as a department under the town as a result of HB 1331. So thoughts on this? All right, so I would take a motion to adopt the goal as presented.
So moved.
First by Jen. Second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The sixth goal addresses the facilities bond. So the bond's going to need to be wound down in the near future, and we're going to need to determine how the remaining bond proceeds and the interest income will be utilized. So I have the following language. The school board, with the superintendent and facilities department, will develop a prioritized list of facilities projects to utilize bond proceeds and interest income prior to the established deadline for expending funds. Any discussion, comments on this one? All right, pretty cut and dry. I would accept the motion to adopt this goal as presented.
So moved.
First by Jenna,
Second.
second by Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, so the seventh goal addresses curriculum and assessment. So we are, as a board, legally responsible for the overall education programs in the district, and while we rely on Mike and the professional educators he employs to handle the day-to-day curriculum development and delivery, we do have a duty to ensure that the robust curriculum is being provided in every grade and subject area, and once it's implemented, that it's being effective. So the overall sense from the board is that we'd like the board as a whole to be provided with a better understanding of curriculum and to have better defined procedures for how our role in the process is fulfilled. So this is the language I have for us. The school board, with the superintendent and curriculum department, will establish a procedure for the presentation of proposed changes to curriculum to the board for review and assent, and for the presentation of the results of those changes, including assessments at periodic intervals. So I will open this one up for discussion.
I would just say, I've taken an interest in working alongside Kim Conant in the curriculum department on the curriculum assessment piece and figuring out how the board fits into all of that. And I like this goal. I think it's a good one. I think that we've had, as a board over the past few years, a particular interest in the facilities components. We've often talked about that in meetings. I think everyone's heard us talk about that a lot. I really think we need to hit this with some new energy, and I'd like to see the curriculum department work alongside us to show us as a board what's happening in the department, have us thoughtfully weigh in on what's being taught in the district, and move forward with that routine intervals throughout the year. So I like the way that this is written. I do think it's broad enough to cover a lot of areas. Another piece of that, I think, as well, is something that Kim has mentioned to the curriculum committee is engaging families better, communicating better with the community at large, and also parents in the district, what's being taught in the schools, how it's being taught, how to support that at home. So I would be supportive of this goal for the year.
Any further thoughts or comments? I would accept a motion to adopt this goal as presented.
So moved.
First by Jen,
Second.
second by Jenna. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So the last goal addresses communications, and as you just noted, particularly around family engagement and parent feedback. So the sense from the group at the workshop was this was an area where the district can do better. I think we're already seeing improvements since we met in June. So this is the language that I have for us. The school board will direct the administration to develop strategies for increasing meaningful family engagement, seeking regular parent feedback on programs and policies through the use of periodic surveys, and further developing a parent education program. So I'll open this one up.
It was my understanding that the communications committee was formed to increase communication with the entire community, not just families and parents.
I mean, that is true, but this particular goal is centered around, what we had discussed as something we wanted to hit, hard this year, which is engaging families.
So you can have separate goals. So committee can have targeted goals, and then the board can have targeted goals as well. Everything, just comparatively, everything we do in facilities as a facilities committee isn't necessarily going to be all around the bond and all of that, right? So each committee can have their own goals still.
Yeah, and I mean, that was our goal from last year, was, to increase communication with the greater community. That's why we established the communications committee, and I think that committee has been doing that work toward that goal, and I think that work will continue, and this is kind of another layer to communications.
Okay.
I also kind of see communications as like the Venn diagram that intersects all of it, because I sit on facilities, curriculum, and communications, and there's no meeting that happens, that we're not talking about, well, we do this in communications as well, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do, is communicate whatever's going on. So I appreciate what you said, Mike, about we can have specific information shared, but I know that at least in the curriculum area, Kim's mentioned that the family piece of it's a big one. Communicating what we're teaching in the schools is a big one. So I think that's why that was highlighted in this particular one.
And I mean, it was a topic of conversation at the workshop of, basically customer satisfaction, that parents in the district are happy with the services that they're receiving and that they're being heard. So this goal kind of, drills into that.
I also, like at the Communications Committee, Mr. Churchill a couple weeks ago talked about the tax cap, and it's coming out. Like, I see those things that the community brings forward going to that committee for level. Like, how are we going to communicate how to read your tax bill, right? And things like that. But I still think the board level is, what are we doing for the direct family that they're targeting? So I think you hit them both, honestly. So the job's going to.
I mean, it's true. Like, a lot of these goals are going to dovetail back into communications. The legislation, the votes we're going to have to deal with is going to fall to communicating. The use of the facilities bond funds is going to fall to communicating with the community. So, I mean, everything really ties back to communications at the end of the day.
I think a big piece too over the past year for communications, it was a new committee last year, and creating the new norms around, for example, having the quarterly newsletter come out. That was a very big target for us last year that we accomplished. Getting information out about the budget, the vote, the deliberative session, and all of that. So I think some of these things will eventually become just norms within the district. If that's helpful to.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about the parent education program? Like, what do you see as that happening with that?
Yeah, so that's something that the board kind of really emphasized at the end of last year, and I'll go back to the special education. One of the questions we asked in the survey is, would you be interested in coming to an information night or a workshop night? It was like 60-40, 50-50-ish, which is fine. So trying to find some of those targeted approaches for parents that are looking for maybe a little bit more in-depth discussion. I mean, again, I always roll my eyes when I say in Hopkinton I did muffins with Mike, but that was an evening I spent with people that really had questions around the budget. So we're trying to find some of that targeted approach.
All right, any further discussion? All right, so I'd accept the motion to adopt this goal as presented.
So moved.
First by Jen.
Second.
Second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Mike, before you go on, can I?
Oh, sure.
Have a second. Brenda asked a great question a couple weeks ago in regards to the strategic plan that this board previous to hiring me invested in. So I actually started doing some cross-referencing from what was completed by the firm and what's happened in my first year, and it was kind of really neat to see the things that kind of what we started to implement were aligning with the strategic plan unintentionally. So at some point this year, I really envisioned my group coming together with showing that cross work so that you can see the money that you and the community invested in is actually being done, even though we might not be titling it strategic plan update. Our goals update, my goal update, all of those things are really starting to connect. So I thought it was a great question that we can bring value to show that we are doing the work. Yep.
Mike, I get 1 second?
Sure.
So I'll just comment on what Mr. Churchill said, and I agree with him 100%, but I don't think it's a goal, though. I think when we talk about health insurance, I think it's something we should be looking at on a regular interval, whether it's every other year. We should be shopping out our plan and see what we can get. We did it 2 years ago, I think. It didn't materialize. What we had was better. But I think that's something, and maybe it is. Maybe you've already discussed this or talked about it, but we should probably do it on some sort of interval. I don't know what that is, but you can deal with that part of it. But as part of operating a district of $110 million and health insurance is going up for us 10% a year, whatever it is, 7-8% a year, we should definitely look at other opportunities that may be out there and see if we can do better. If not, I mean, it is what it is. At least we said we try and do it.
Brian, your comment was about working with the town collaboratively, and we do meet with the town regularly for a joint meeting. We have one that's going to be coming up before our second September meeting, and that's an excellent topic of discussion to have with our
I
town
agree, but
council
I think
counterparts.
we all have different union contracts, though, right? There's a lot of differences there. I don't know how that would mesh, but we could definitely talk about it.
I didn't think that was allowed to do, because I remember asking Jane at one point about trying to do some sort of merger offer for Next Charter School for their health insurance, and whether or not they could come in under or come in with ours, and it
There
was not.
are several rules in regards to that, but to Mr. Cherichello's point as well, Mike and I met at the beginning of summer. The town's already, Health Trust does a very good job. They can run a scenario, right? So Mike talked about joining our buying group, right? Bigger buying group, lower numbers, things like that. But I'll go to what David just said. There's a key component for the plans that are offered in the bargaining units, right? So we can shop around every time a collective bargaining agreement opens up, but you can't break the bargaining unit that you're in with the plans that you're offering. So trying to get coordination with that, but Mike Fowler is, I don't think I need to tell you anything. He's phenomenal what he does. And so he had reached out in May to run this hypothetical. So Health Trust is doing a lot of work to see if it's doable, if it's not. Next is a different entity because it's not, it's a charter. So there's different rules with that. So it's definitely something, and believe it or not, it came up at Rotary this morning. It's something that our profession or our world in education has to really think about. And more specifically, and not to go on record or into details, but there is a district that broke away from Health Trust in school care for the first time, and they're testing their bargaining unit was open, so they're testing theirs in, I'll call it more of a private supplier. So we'll have some data that's going to be coming our way before, but I agree with everyone. It's definitely a controlled cost that we have to figure out what to do.
So David, were you saying that because you want that to be one of our goals? Like, do you want to,
I think it's standard operating procedure in an organization, whether you're private, public, whatever, you should always evaluate your certain contracts, and health insurance is it's not a contract, but it's a big nut in our budget. And I'm not saying it's every year, but every couple of years you should look and see if you can do better.
Okay,
there's a lot of restrictions, there's a lot of red tape.
And it comes down to our labor agreement too, as Mike alluded to, with the Health Trust and the specific plans that they get is in the collective bargaining
agreement. But you cannot
agreements.
not do something because it's hard. You know what I mean? You gotta
But we would have to do it in tandem with negotiating with the bargaining units.
Yeah.
All right, so we have our 8 goals that we came up with out of our workshop. Everyone feels comfortable with what we've approved tonight for now? Is there anything glaring that you think we need to address? And we can always revisit these throughout the year. If something comes up that, needs to be a goal, they can always be revisited. So this is our starting point, and we'll go from here.
So I will take these and draft mine and bring them to you either the next meeting or the second meeting in September. So whatever we decide at leadership, it's fine. Thank you.
That's good.
All right.
All right, our next item to consider is going to be the FY26 fund balance and retention in the contingency fund. So I believe Jane is going to have a presentation on this for us.
I think you just tap. Yep.
Okay, so now that we're at our fiscal year end and we're reviewing our financials for the end of the school year, and again, our years go from July 1 to June 30th, so this is where we would be at the end of June 30th of 2026. And these are unaudited numbers. We're not having our audit, I think, until the first or second week of September now. But our estimated year-end balance right now is a little over $4.4 million. And there are several areas of the budget that make that up. General and special education tuition, there was some surplus through Pinkerton. And just in general funds, some health insurance, and also unfilled positions tend to give us a surplus. And so when we're looking at how we're going to calculate the number that we're presenting tonight, we also have to keep in mind that last year we approved a warrant article, which was warrant article number 3, that was $500,000, and that was for maintenance and repairs that would move from the unspent funds and move it to the capital reserve fund, which is what you were just speaking about a few minutes ago. And that would be held with it's a trust fund held by the trustees of the trust fund at the town. And that's $500,000, so I subtracted that. There was also a warrant article number 4, and that was also to address capital improvement projects through facilities, and that would be taking that on the interest earned from the bond proceeds. And remember, we were issued the bond. It was the bond was sold last August, and we were earning interest all along last year, and the total that was earned through the bond was $743,000. The warrant article was for $700,000, so the remaining $43,000 would have just gone through part of unspent funds. So we subtracted the $700,000. And then subtracting $1.5 million. $1.5 million is an amount that we use every year during the budgeting process, and it's kind of a placeholder for revenues as your unspent or unreserved funds at the end of the year. And last year when we were doing our calculations, we estimated a $1.5 million in return of unspent funds at the end of the year. So I've calculated that. And then that leaves the $1.7 million, which would be available to either move to the contingency fund, all or in part, or return to offset taxes.
Wait, before you click?
Sure.
Okay, before you click, I just want to point out as we're trying to retrain our vocabulary and some of the things. So our unspent, right, is end of year. In a municipal budgeting process, your target for unspent every year, remember, we cannot go back to the taxpayers ever and ask for more money. So if something happens or something occurs, it comes from the bottom line or a bottom line budget, you cannot go back. So the targeted approach for municipality budgeting is between 3 and 5%. So that 4.48 is right exactly where municipality budgeting should be with unspent funds. That means you appropriately budgeted and you appropriately spent for the year. So I want to point that out. And then remember, the warrant article 3 and 4 were voted on by the taxpayers to save that money and move those into those funds. So just clarifying that before we move on.
You didn't go over the allowable, right? Did you?
I did not.
Okay. And just as a note on the bottom, years ago, when they finally addressed that school districts could have retained funds, this board voted to have the maximum, which is 5%, and it's of your net assessed amount of your budget. So for us, we would have been able to retain up to almost $3.9 million. That's not how much we have left over. We've never retained our maximum allowed amount. So, but we just put that in there so you could see how much we could have retained had we had that much remaining. And then we were asked if we could show different scenarios or options and what the tax impact would be for that, depending on if you retained one of these scenarios and returned funds. So if we look at scenario 1, if the school board wanted to retain $500,000 of the 1.7 and move that to the contingency fund, you would have a balance of $1.2 million, and if you return that to offset taxes, that would be a 23-cent tax impact. If you retain $1 million, it would be a 14-cent tax impact. Retain $1.5 million, 5-cent tax impact. And if we retained the full amount, there would be no impact of a tax reduction. So we just use these for easy numbers. The board can choose whatever numbers they want, but so that's what we have right now, and we have historically always retained funds since we've had the ability to do that. And they've ranged from, I think it started at 400,000, and we've been in a different range over a different number of years.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify too that we have the ability to do this because of a vote of the town, right? That
Yes,
is law.
the town voted
the
for that.
town's voters approved to give the school board the ability to retain these funds until specifically rescinded. So
Correct.
It's indefinite.
Correct.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the board's decision, right? So the recommendation from us is always to protect ourselves. And I say Jane always protects the house, right? And I think we lived through a couple of experiences, and thankfully insurance covered the flooded hood, but we have some other things that could possibly happen, whether it's a boiler, so it's always good to have that protection piece, so that The following year, if you take from the bottom line general, the following year, you're then going to be requesting for it again. So just keeping that in mind as you guys deliberate here on what you think is best for us. But I think we always say, you know, protecting the house is always a good thing because there are a bunch of unknowns.
So just for the people in the audience, when you see these numbers, say your house tax assessment $600,000, you divide that by 1,000, you multiply it by those change on the right-hand side, and that's the amount you would save. So on a $600,000 house at 23 cents, what are you looking at, about $123 roughly? It's kind of how you look at it when you think about the calculation and trying to figure out how much you'd actually save by the amounts that are shown up top there.
$138. Sorry. It's just one.
That's for the whole year?
That would be for the whole year.
The whole year, okay. So 138.
So thoughts?
If we were to
Everyone on this?
if we retain, or we choose to retain now, do we determine now what kiddie fund, what category that the money would be retained for? Or
Great
is
question. It goes into the contingency fund.
Okay.
Right? So that's the state rewrote that law too to help districts to be better able to access the contingency in case of unforeseen costs that come our way. That's the way the language is written.
So it's a general umbrella term for anything that would arise, and it's not earmarked for specific causes?
And the board gets to determine that.
And you have to have a public hearing, and the board has to vote.
Right, okay. All right, so this just puts it into the...
It's a savings account for protection.
Okay.
And whatever, when we establish this contingency fund now, whatever is left in it at the end of the year just goes right back into your year-end fund balance at the end of next year.
Yep.
Do we know what the tax impact of the bond is this year? Like,
The rates have it.
is that not?
For the bond?
Yeah.
No, I can look it up, though.
Okay.
This was a high year, I think.
I thought so too. I thought this
Yeah.
was a higher year, which is why I was hoping to take that into consideration.
I thought it levels down.
It should.
Because the first year was like nothing, and then the second or third year, it was going to be a high kick.
I feel like we had to give something back.
At that.
I don't remember the number, but yeah, to answer your question, interest only the first year is a smaller number, then you start the amortization schedule. Jane would be better suited to answer that question. I don't remember the number.
I'll need a few minutes.
So, do we have any other questions about the impact of this, what we're talking about?
I just want to reiterate what Michael said. I think it was kind of quiet there at the end. So if you do vote to retain and nothing comes up, right, that money then rolls right back to the taxpayer the next year. Okay.
I mean, my thoughts would be that we would retain the amounts of $1.7 or so million. I think that we need to be thoughtful moving forward about expenses that we know are going to be coming up down the line. I think that everyone up here is being tasked with being thoughtful stewards of the public's dollars, tax dollars. Part of that is being able to plan and anticipate expenses that we know are coming down the road. I think we have a very recent example of what happens when that doesn't happen, which is what resulted in the bond. I'd like to see us be a little bit more thoughtful moving forward with that. And I do think it's a responsible move. So that would be my idea around all of this.
So we retain this and we don't use it, it goes back to the taxpayers.
Goes back into your
It goes-
so you come back to this discussion a year from now.
You keep doing this every year.
You just keep doing it every year. I think it would be great if we just split it in half and kept half of it, because we might not need it, and give the other half back to the taxpayers.
I think there's definitely some benefit to doing that, Karen, and I can certainly see meeting everyone halfway. I think we're also in a climate right now where we're coming up against some potential volatility that is beyond this board's control regarding HB 13, HB 1331. That would be my concern, is that if we're not maintaining flexibility about approaching things moving forward.
The bond number, really quick. 44 cents? 44 cents.
44 cents.
It is. No.
Is that an increase? Is that a delta?
I mean, I would also be of the opinion of retaining the balance. I mean, there's so much unpredictability in so many areas of the district's ledger, facilities, healthcare costs, special education, what we're actually going to get from state and federal funding sources. I think the fiscally responsible thing to do is for the district to maintain this contingency fund. This is part of municipal budget management. You have to consider if you take all this money now and you use it for a quick fix that's going to take a few cents off the tax rate, there are things you're not going to be able to address that are going to get pushed out again. And as Jen alluded to, that is kind of how we've ended up in bad situations before.
Can I just clarify one thing, Karen? Sorry. So the tax impact is 44 cents. However, it's going up 33 because the 11 that was already in because of the interest. So the delta's 33 cents, just so.
That's on the bond.
Yes.
I think my main concern is just, we saw what just happened last year with the healthcare funds and how Londonderry got gobsmacked with an unanticipated increase in theirs, and they were scrambling. And my fear is that next year, nothing's going down. The cost for everything is going up. We just had to increase. We've had to increase everything, and if we're getting less from the state and where everything else is increasing, we're just going to be stealing from Peter to pay Paul at some point. And giving this back of $138 to then possibly have to turn around the next year and ask for more money for something else when we could have this as a rainy day fund. I also think it sounds so callous to say it's only $138 because I know $138 is a lot to a lot of people, but to a district and for what we're funding, that is what we are fiscally charged to do, is, like you said, to protect the house, Mike. And I think personally, it's responsible for us to keep it because we know things are not going to get any cheaper.
We did have the money from the bond. We also had.
I don't think your mic's on.
We also had the money from those other projects that we just did.
Nope, you just turned it off.
Okay. Anyway, I still think in good faith to the taxpayers, splitting this in half is the better decision, simply because we've already used a bunch of money to fix a bunch of little things that were kind of not super important, but needed to be done. So I don't know. I just think we might possibly not even use this money this year, right?
Yeah, and the contingency fund is only going to grow, right? Like we agreed to put, was it the 500,000 in there?
Those are different funds.
Or sorry. Okay, so it wouldn't be going into that one, the maintenance and repair. It would be a different.
No, this is the contingency fund that is established under, what is it, 198.4B?
It's the broad umbrella.
So it is different.
198.4B.
Traditional trust fund.
Or March.
It's an expiring fund. Every year you can take money from your your unspent fund balance and put it into this contingency fund. And it expires at the end of the year and just goes back into your unspent fund balance at the end of that next year.
Okay.
In facilities is going kind of okay now because we got the bond and we've done all this stuff. So we're keeping money in case of we need it for health insurance. Well, if we're shopping around for health insurance, then we might save on that too. There's just other things to do. I just think it would be a goodwill gesture to split it in half.
Yeah, well, any savings on health insurance are going to be a few years out because
of the contract,
the
right?
labor agreements
And I
that
get
we're
that.
in. So.
David, I'd be interested in hearing your perspective.
So I hear what everyone's saying, and I can appreciate what Jenna mentioned about Londonderry getting whacked last year, and a lot of people who use students with the student care, whatever, got whacked. The 3 prior years I was on the board, I gave money back every year. I voted to give money back every year because we were able to keep a good chunk of money, but I'm not comfortable going to a super low number. I don't think we need to take it all, but I'm good with 1.5 as a number. I know it's not a lot. I just don't feel comfortable giving, not having a savings for, we're spending a lot of money on facilities, but that's everything outside. Like, we're not putting a ton of money inside, and things could go, like, I'm sit here and list them off, but you know what I mean. I just don't, I just don't feel comfortable not having something in reserve that will protect us.
Just
down the
another
road.
piece, I'm only giving you information as going on. Last year, you guys retained, it was my first meeting, I couldn't remember. Last year, we retained 2.1 last year.
And how much of that do we use?
We used it for, so it's contingency, so the only public hearing we had was to use the funds to relocate the SAU. So that was it. What?
The warrant articles too? These two?
It's separate. It's separate.
The problem to looking to the
it's
past
separate.
about unexpected expenses is that unexpected expenses are unexpected. So that's what's problematic about that. And there was a time that this board was debating about having a bond that was $10 million more than the $25 million that we asked for, $15 million more. I mean, there is significant need, and there remains significant need. I don't like those needs. I really don't. I wish we didn't have those needs, but they continue to be needs. They don't go away because we don't pay for them today. My concern would be that, $100 today is taking $200 tomorrow. Those are my thoughts, and that's why I'm advocating to retain the full amount. I understand we can have thoughtful disagreement about that.
I don't know. Okay.
So I don't think we should retain it all. I think we've asked for a lot from the taxpayers. We have a $9 million increase in our budget. I don't know what that is because we don't know what the tax rate's going to be, but it's significant. We have the 2 warrant articles that were approved that we can spend that money. We've approved money that has been left over to do repairs up until a couple of weeks ago. So we're not ignoring doing things. I think $138 is not a lot of money, or whatever it turns out to be, but it is a goodwill gesture to the taxpayers who have given us a lot this year.
So you'd be in favor of returning a portion of it?
Yes.
Or do you have a number out of this? What is?
I don't have a number. I listen to David and I listen to Karen. I'll see where it comes down, what ends up coming up.
So I can definitely appreciate what Brenda's saying, and Karen's saying 100% right. The one thing, and I don't want to get too political here, and I'll try not to, but we've been asked to do a lot as a school board from up in Concord. We've been asked to give a lot and change direction, change course. I won't go into every little detail, but we all know what they are. And this is who the town of Derry voted for up in Concord to send up there. So, do I feel bad that the tax rate is where it's at? Of course I do. But do I have a lot of sympathy? No. This is what was voted for. This is what the town voted for. And we're doing the best we can to manage the variables that have been given to us. And, but I'll stop my sob story. So I'll make a motion to retain $1,250,000.
All right, so we have a motion on the table to retain $1,250,000. Do I have a second? Second by Brenda. All right, so why don't we do a roll call vote? Brenda? Jen?
Yes.
Jenna?
Can you come back to me?
Is your mind going to change?
Maybe. I'm not.
All right, we'll skip you for now. Jamie?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Jenna?
Yes.
All right, chair votes yes. Passes 7-0, right?
For the record, that means $533,811 will be returned to the taxpayer. Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So our final item to go over tonight is going to be a policy revision. Mike will have more details, but this is a first read and there is urgency to enact this revision. So we're being asked as permitted under policy BGA to waive the second meeting limitation and take immediate action. So, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
And actually, I'm ecstatic because I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sindoni.
So in your packet tonight, you have a copy of draft policy JIC. As you know, House Bill 131 was recently... JICK. Was recently amended because of legislation that Governor Ayotte signed in July. It actually went into effect August 1st, so we're somewhat on a time crunch. And basically, the revisions of this policy is due to that legislation. So just to give you an overview of some of those changes, it is in relation to bullying and student safety. All school staff must report bullying by the end of the day. That is new. Upon receiving a bullying report, administrators need to provide the rights to the victim. A lot of the legal terms in the policy have changed. It replaces labels like respondent and complainant to perpetrator and victim. Sure. It updates. I am new, I'm sorry. It updates a lot of the cyberbullying threats. It gives behavioral expectations with plain language examples, and it also has a curricular component. And there's also a piece of it where the principal or designee needs to have a mandatory conference with the perpetrator and the perpetrator's family. So the New Hampshire School Board Association has advised districts to actually waive the second reading to be able to implement this as soon as possible.
All right, questions, comments about the policy? All right, so I would take a motion to waive the second reading limitation and approve the amended policy JICK as presented. First by Brenda.
Second.
Second by Jenna. Karen?
Karen can take it.
Karen? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Move on to administration reports. I'll turn it over to Jane for the business administrator's update.
Okay, I just want to address a couple of things that were mentioned tonight. With regards to the capital reserve accounts, we actually have two right now. One of them was voted on, that was for the replacement of West Running Brook and Barker's roof, and there is remaining funds in there from interest. So right now that account, I think it's in the $60,000 range, and we would only spend that on a roofing project since that's where it came from, and we would bring that to the board if we were going to do any spending on that. The other capital reserve is a general facilities account where we would be able to do, HVAC or window replacement, paving, things like that. Again, those would be brought to the board for approval as well. So those are the only two capital reserves.
How much is in that one? I'm sorry. Did you specify how much was in that one? You said $60K for the roof one, and then the general one has how much?
Yeah, and I don't have the numbers with me, but it's over 100,000. And I'll bring that actually for my September report. I'll bring you a copy of those. We get them every month. Okay. And so if you were going to, if you wanted to have a warrant article to add to a capital reserve account, I would recommend that if it's going to be for general facilities, it would just add to the existing capital reserve account that there is. There's no need to have a second general maintenance account. If you're going to do something different and have a capital reserve for special education, then you would have to have a new account. Okay? And so I know we talked about budget, and obviously we have to take into consideration House Bill 1300. We've already started doing our templates and our base of our budget, and like Mike said, we met yesterday to talk about timelines. The good thing, I guess, for timeline is that Health Trust no longer just gives you a guaranteed maximum. Last year, we were given our actual rate October 10th. So we're getting that in the beginning of our budget process. So that's really helpful to us so that we'll know what that increase is going to be early on in the process. And that will be really helpful when the board decides, for a percentage of an increase. I'll at least have that number and it won't be a guess. And as you know, we get Pinkertons typically around the week of Thanksgiving, so more towards the end of November. But by that point, we'll know what the town vote is relative to that for 27-28. We're also working on, I'll be bringing to the DOE 25, that is the compilation of all of the revenues, expenditures, and we do that for the Department of Ed. I think they call it the DOE 25 because it used to be 25 pages, but I believe we have a whole bunch more tabs, and everything in the budget now has to be broken down by elementary, middle, high. Also now has to be broken down by each individual school, and that's for general and special education, all grants, food service. It's a very complicated report, takes a lot of hours, so we're working on that. We're probably going to, it is due September 1st, but since we've just finalized our numbers, we'll ask for a request, and we've always got one, so it'd probably be 10 days after. And we're also still working on audit. We've received so far 54 requests, although those are a lot of requests within each one. And if you remember, we have 3 different bank accounts. We have 2 PDIP accounts. We have a general checking. We have 6 student activity checking accounts that we have to reconcile. So we are working on all of that to be prepared for a full audit. I would like to just bring up food service. Today, Christina Lebelzik, our Director of Child Nutrition, brought over the applications for me to approve. Today, we received several applications, 3 of them, and this is after we've done the calculations on whether people are approved or not. We had 3 that were approved to be on reduced meals. 5 were denied for excess or too much income based on the guidelines. 4 families were approved for free meals, and 5 that were sent over are actually direct certified, so they wouldn't have even had to have filled out an application because we get that. The direct certified actually is a list that comes to us directly from the state. So as you know, people who are already qualified for free and reduced, they have until the beginning of October to reapply. So we want to make sure and encourage families to do that, even though the timeline's another month and a half out. Get your applications in now so that we can make sure that you're set up to have a continuation of the free or reduced if you still qualify. And so people can do that. We have paper copies in the school office. We have our online portal is open, and if you feel like you need additional assistance with it, please feel free to call Christina or call any one of the kitchen staff members at your child's school, and they'd be happy to help you with your application. And we also do have teachers who specialize in speakers of other languages, so if families need assistance with that, we have plenty of people that can help people fill out, and the home to school coordinators are also really helpful. We do have cook server positions open if anybody's interested in a position in our kitchens, and we also have a commissary driver position open. They're part-time, but the commissary driver brings food from one school to another, unloads the state commodities when they come every month. So we're looking for somebody for those positions in food service. Any questions?
I do, actually, while you have the microphone. I was wondering if you could address publicly how the choosing the audit works. I know I spoke to Mike recently, a couple days ago, and there was a concerned citizen who had posted on a thread that actually Brian had posted, and basically kind of like accused nefarious wrongdoings of choosing an auditor basically that would favorably look upon our books or look the other way or whatever. And I was just wondering if you could quickly address the fact of how you choose an auditor, how many are actually available to us in the state of New Hampshire, and just to kind of, clear the air and make it well known that this is not picked to look the other way or cook our books of somehow.
Sure. So there are very few auditors, public auditors, for entities like ourselves. We currently use CBIZ, which has had a few different names over the last several years. And actually, it's the same auditing firm that the town of Derry uses. So different teams are doing the audits. Different ones do municipalities, different ones do schools. So there's CBIZ, there's Plodzik and Sanderson. We had used Plodzik and Sanderson for many, many years. And so then we went out to try to find, because we'd been on there for so long, that same concern had gone up. And then we switched to another company, but those are the top two in the state. There are some smaller private ones, but they would do a town maybe the size of Chester. I know Chester uses a small accounting firm, but with a business like ours, it's $120 million. We're using a very large firm. We never have the same team, so many of them don't live around here. Some of them are remote, some of them travel to get here, some of them are local, but they purposefully rotate your teams so that you're not having anybody who's, for any conflict or anything like that. So, yeah, there's very few auditing firms for us to choose from, and we're using one of the largest ones.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to kind of put it out there on the record so that if this person should ask again, they could actually find the information easily.
You think Jane would have taken it so personal last year when she was a super user?
Yeah, if I thought it was going to be a breeze, I wouldn't have so much anxiety to be perfect and make sure that.
Thank you for that description, Jane.
There's
Appreciate
it. Yes.
So Jane, I have a question on free and reduced lunch.
Sure.
Is that state guidelines or federal guidelines?
Federal guidelines.
They are federal guidelines.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They're not school district. We have no control over those guidelines.
And some people in the community might ask, why do we always talk about it, right? You hear it every board meeting. It's important, number one, really, is to make sure the families know the benefits that are available to them, and so that the students are fed every day. That's the real goal. But the second piece that people might not understand is that the amount of money we receive from the state is tied to our free and reduced lunch. So if you think about how calculations exist, it's kind of crazy, right? The higher your free and reduced, the more adequacy you get. So it's also important for all districts, not only just to make sure the community is receiving the benefits, but it's also a bottom line number for us in regards to adequacy. So that's why it's important on both ends.
Mm-hmm. Are you saying, Mike, that when the federal guidelines change, the state adequacy changes, and then the local school board needs to figure out?
I didn't say it that way. I said it different.
That's what it kind of sounds like. Yeah, okay.
All right, so on to my report.
Go right ahead.
All right, so just a couple of things we're going to go down the list. It's Tracy's stealing my thunder here. So to report out on South Range, I'll reiterate what Tracy did in public comments. So I commend the groups that we entered into the agreement with and the work that was being done. It was 7 days a week. It was during the torrential downpours. It was during the crazy heat. They were there every day, and they were respectful to the neighborhood, and they cranked out work. As Jeremy reported, there's no secret, as we started to uncover, more things popped up. So some of those timelines changed. Credit to South Range and the staff for their resiliency. As the trucks, at my opening staff meeting, as the buses were leaving, the trucks were pulling in at the start of summer, and then as the trucks were pulling out, the staff were pulling in. They walked into a pretty filthy building, and Jeremy's crew and the staff themselves just started taking it upon themselves. But then we got a crew in during the weekend, staff from Barca, staff from other buildings. I know Dr. Sindoni was over there, really starting to help make that building come together. So credit to them, credit to the people that we worked with. It was pretty cool. Speaking of that, I mentioned teachers are back. It was great to see them last week. We did our opening meeting, which I've got down to about 45 minutes, so I think everyone's happy about that. Get them back into the buildings, get them kicking. So it was great to see them. I have to say it publicly the way I said in front of the staff. If you see Jeremy, please give him a high five. That man and what he did this summer, not only coordinating what was going on South Range, but we replaced nearly 4,000 square feet of flooring. We replaced so much, and I don't think I've ever seen that man either get too high or too low. Probably the most even keel guy around, so he did just a phenomenal job this year managing all that, so thank you to him. Spent some time at Rotary this morning. It was great to see that group. We spent some time talking about the work we're doing in our school, and then really the questions surrounded House Bill 1300, which I'll talk to at the end. But it was thank you for the invite to the Rotary. Bev had reached out to invite me, so that was great. Obviously, students are back. Today was a great day. I made a joke with Mr. Fox this morning because the buses were terrible, but at the same time, Carrie and I think we did some math. I think in my 26 years, we've never had a good first day run on busing. But a couple unanticipated consequences this year with time change. So we had a higher ridership than we ever have this year. So we actually had more students getting on the bus and less parent pickup and drop off. But that slowed down the routes because the routes have been designed for normal ridership previously. So we're working through all those kinks. It normally takes about 3 or 4 days. New stops are added, new stops may be adjusted. At the same time, I think I spoke with Michael and Jen at leadership today. Your buses were totally on time. So it's good and bad, but we're trying to navigate that as usual. Really super excited to report out. We had our signups with 5 through 8 sports. So remember, we added 5-6 sports. We included boys and girls soccer, cross country, and field hockey. We had nearly 200 signups. So we actually have to add an additional volleyball team. And so that's great. That's what we all wanted, I think, in the spring, was to have more kids involved. I'll say now some of the rubber needs to meet the road in regards to organizing our coaches and our fields and all of that. But I think we have Danielle, who's in great shape. She's so organized. Along with Melanie and Mr. Fox, they're all doing a phenomenal job. So excited to report out that. SAU move. So Kathleen and I call it evicted. We've been evicting people slowly. The business department now has been there for almost 3-4 weeks. Moved into special ed, moved into curriculum, McKinney-Vento, and then Kathleen and I actually closed the doors today for the final time at 18 South Main. We took our final staff picture there yesterday. So we are all in at Derry Village. The only thing left at the SAU are, it looks like a ghost town, but it's chairs and desks and filing cabinets. So what we're going to do is slowly move those filing cabinets, if you can imagine years of stuff, into the appropriate places, and then we'll essentially be all out. In regards to the next steps, we met with our legal team last Friday. And obviously it's up to you guys, and I had mentioned that we start that discussion. The recommendation, so there's an RFP. I'm going to give the quick version because this isn't the work we're doing, but the RFP, right, you put a purchase order out for the SAU, you solicit bids, people tell you how much they want to buy it, and then the board can select that. The recommendation from our firm, though, is to do an RFQ. So it's the same way, you're trying to find a qualified commercial real estate agent that has that skill set. So it's the same as if we're doing an RFQ for architects or landscaping, things like, so who is qualified to do the work? That gives the board a little bit more control. So you can interview the candidates once they submit if they're interested in being the agent, and then you can tell them more specifically what your bottom line number is, what your goals are. We have already qualified the legal components because we went out to vote, right? So the town unanimously approved you to be the buyers, the sellers. So you can do all the work. So we've crossed that line. Once we come to an agreement, though, remember it's that last chance, whatever it is, that charter schools can come in and equal the match, whatever it may or may not be. So the next step would be for the board to probably at either the next meeting or the following meeting, put in what you want to see out of your RFQ. So what are the qualifications? What's the experience? Do you want to do a firm? Do you want to do an individual person? Things along those lines. The reason why I'll just say it one more time publicly, the reason why you move away from the RFP, because what's the goal of an RFP? What's the goal when you bid? I'm testing you guys. When you're putting a bid in, what's the goal? Lowest, right? People are just going to continue to undercut what the value is and what they think they can get the sale for. So really to give yourself the leverage and make sure you're using what you're capable of, you want to find that buyer and you tell them, go out, do this, and then we meet all those qualifications. So you can get that going at one of the next meetings, we get that posted, and then you guys get to do that work from there. But we're officially out. I mean, it was today. It was really weird, but it's nice. So that goes into my last thing is the facilities tour we've been kicking around. So I think we've heard from 1 or 2 board members in regards to the nights or evenings. We're going to post that as a whole meeting, just out of the good for everyone, and then anyone in the community can join the tours as we hop around. Also thought about maybe doing it before a board meeting. Maybe we go out in the facilities. That way you don't have to mess with your calendars too much. Maybe we book a 4 o'clock start time and we bounce around and then we end up back in this direction. So those are some of my recommendations. School's off and running. You'll hear from the principals next meeting. They're going to come and do the opening spiel. I didn't want to take any of their thunder. And we're off and running. It's been a great day. I say it's always the best day of the year. So questions for me?
Questions? All right. Lots of good news there. Glad to hear about 5-6 sports that seem to come together at just the right time for us.
Excited.
All right. Our next order of business will be committee and liaison reports. Mike, I'm assuming you have no other updates out of policy. We were just meeting on that specific emergency policy. So I will turn it over to Jenna with an update from the Curriculum and Assessment Committee.
Okay, so shameless admission, we had a massive meeting last week. It was our first one in review of the summer, and Kim gave us a lot. It was a full amount of Kim just going over everything that was done over the summer. So I had to take the notes, and I had to throw it into AI and scramble it because I could not possibly summarize everything that was given to us. So this isn't entirely from my brain, but a little bit, so I'm just going to give you a rundown of what we did. The main focus that the curriculum worked on over the summer was family. One of the things is family access. The district is working on a family curriculum hub and a K-8 curriculum dashboard. And the idea is that parents will be able to easily see what their child is expected to learn at each grade level, what the priority standards are, how students are being assessed, and get ideas of how they can support them from home. They're doing a lot of work around writing instruction, grades K-8, which we know that there needs to be some work on. Over the summer, the task force worked on the curriculum using something called the Writing Rope, which isn't, I believe, a paid-for program, but it's something that they're pulling from that goes around the evidence-based learning to build on the framework. The goal is to build those skills year over year, like critical thinking, before we send them into Pinkerton, where they're really expected to do a lot more writing. Homework is an area they're trying to make more clear. Starting in 5th grade, the homework will gradually start to increase, again, preparing them for what they're going to expect once they get to high school. It's not just to give them more work, it's to reinforce what they're learning, build responsibility, and help prepare them for middle and then for high school. Families will get more information about what the expectations are and how they can help. In math, they had some task force teams go over that, and they're working on consistency and how instruction is structured, which I know is very vague, but it was kind of vague to us in the meeting too. It was just basically, this is something that we are working on. Math block is including a warm-up, focused instruction, and meaningful practice. And then continuing to work on the ELA curriculum. There was something that I thought was really interesting is that there was progression made with Open Up. I guess there are different programs that are used for each level. There's K-4 and then 5, 6, 7, 8, and depending where they are. And the 5th graders or the upcoming 4th graders were doing so well that they're now being bumped up into the next level of the ELA program, which I thought was really good. And then, in science, they're going to start using Open Science, which they're very excited about. It's going to be 6th through 8th grade, full implementation, and they're going to be using something called SAM Labs, which is obviously a lab program for K through 4. So I think that is the general synopsis, but there was a lot Jen, please, if I missed anything,
there was a lot of information that we covered. It's over a short period of time. I think you summarized it well. I think one of the take-homes for me was that there's a lot of work that happens in the curriculum department over the summer when there aren't students in the schools and teachers are getting together to think a lot about what's being taught. I had asked Kim Conant, again, for everyone that might not know, is the director of curriculum. I asked her about some writing information at the K-4 level. Yeah, there was a lot that was contained in that meeting, so good job, Jenna.
Thanks, I tried.
Just to echo a few things I also said on that committee, the writing rope, if you think about it, it's actually a visual. So it's all the elements of strong writers, and you take those strands and you weave them together to create the rope. So it's really a focus on different strands of writing and explicit instruction for students. Another goal of the committee is to create public-facing documents that we would like to put on the website so families know what their students are learning and when. And also, just to echo what Jen said, there were people in and out all summer long at the SAU working on task force to really look at the curriculum that we have, refining it, and trying to make it really clear for teachers to really provide them a strong framework to teach from in ELA.
Oh, and one other thing I wanted to add, which I thought was very important, and to let parents know, is that they're going to be implementing book contracts, which so that nobody gets a surprise in that every year, physical copies of books go out, and sometimes kids don't take care of things, which is a shocker, I know. So parents and kids are going to be signing book contracts to say that they're getting property from the school and they're going to take care of it and they're going to return it back to the school district, hopefully in the same condition that it went out. And if not, then they're going to be fiscally responsible for that book, which I think not only is that beneficial to the district, but it's also beneficial to the children to learn how to take care of their property and especially other people's belongings. So that's my report.
All right, do we have any questions? We will move on to member updates and any other business. I had a couple of items. First, I wanted to thank Jen for chairing our last meeting on August 11th while I was on vacation. I also wanted to thank Barbara DuPont and Audrey Allen for reaching out to us and coming to the meeting with their proposal to redirect the funds from the fundraiser they spearheaded 6 years ago. Their proposal to donate the funds to St. Jude's is an excellent way to honor the memory of the two girls who were the inspiration of the campaign, so thank you again to all of them for all of their work. I also wanted to mention again, we will probably keep mentioning this, that the district is looking for an applicant for a school district treasurer. This is an appointed position, so you'd submit an application through the SAU office for the board to consider. There's a small stipend, so if you're a resident of Derry and a registered voter and you'd like to offer your services to the district, please reach out to the SAU office. Did anyone else have any other business or updates? All right, hearing none, our upcoming meeting schedule, we're back at it.
September, the next board meeting, we need to discuss about possibly moving the September 8th board meeting because there is an election.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Forgot about that.
Mike, do we want to consider?
That's up to you.
Rescheduling that meeting? So that meeting is scheduled for state primary day.
I personally, I would like to see it move to a different day for obviously my own personal reasons because I work the elections, and so does.
Yeah,
I feel like
well, and I
somebody else did,
understand
but
that's a.
It's also a conflict.
That's a conflict for a lot of other people. Is that September 8th, right?
Well, you're holding signs too.
So September 7th is Labor Day. So we're definitely not going to have it that Monday. We could consider moving it to that Wednesday, the 9th.
I could do that.
Mike, thoughts on that?
Again, this is your meeting, so.
I mean, that date works for your team?
Yeah. We're going to make it work for my team. Wednesday or Thursday.
I cannot do that Thursday, September 10th.
All right, Wednesday would be better for me anyways. You guys?
For me.
All right.
Not at nighttime.
Nice try. Not a big deal, but I will be absent that day. Just not a big deal.
Yep. So if we want to move that meeting, I would take a motion to move our Tuesday, September 8th meeting to Wednesday, September 9th, same time, same place.
I'd like to make a motion for that.
First by Jenna.
Second.
Second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
I'll work with Kathleen to repost and go from there.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks for remembering that.
Yeah, less minute.
So, our upcoming meeting schedule again, our next meeting will be Wednesday, September 9th at 6:30 PM here at the Municipal Center. On Tuesday, September 22nd, we're going to be meeting for a joint workshop with the Town Council 1 hour before our regular meeting. So a bit of context for this. Earlier this year, we met for a workshop prior to a Town Council meeting, and it's our turn. So we're hoping these regular meetings will lead to some meaningful collaboration and some action that benefits the town as a whole. We talked about this a little bit earlier. So again, that workshop is going to be here at 5:30 on the 22nd, and our regular meeting will follow at 6:30. So if there is no other business, the board will be meeting in non-public session tonight, so I would accept the motion to enter non-public session under RSA 91A, Section 3, Paragraph 2, Subparagraph A.
So moved.
First by Jamie,
Second.
second by Jenna. The statute requires a roll call vote. Brenda? Jen?
Yes.
Jenna?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion carries 7-0. Board will now move into non-public session. Good night, everybody.
Because usually.
I don't think the